Welcome back to The Watch. I'm your co-host, Oz, from Team Oz. This is the main guy, Shad, from Team Oz. And
what's the subject of this video?
the subject is, honestly, the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. 15 ways Lord of the Rings has aged poorly.
Like, really? Oh, wow. This is... Okay, CBR. I think it's Comic Book Resources.
More like crap, bull, and retardation.
We will see what you think about this, because when I look back to Lord of the Rings, it has aged like fine wine.
They're perfect.
Yeah, like my appreciation has only grown as time has passed on. And I think I even took them a bit for granted when they were released, right? Because we were thinking like, look how good cinema's getting. Well, imagine the stuff we'll get in the future. When no, it's...
You guys were peaked.
If only we understood how lucky we were back then. There's some just classic examples, like just compare Lord of the Rings with The Hobbit, right? How just the idea of solid filmmaking and how studio involvement ruins things has gone off a cliff. And then look at modern Marvel and DC films, not just the big blockbusters, and how special effects have gone off a cliff. Like the special effects in The Flash were just atrocious and dog crap. And the effects in Lord of the Rings, they still hold up, man.
Timeless.
Okay. But CBR wants to let us know that it's aged poorly in these 15 different ways. Number 15, Return of the King's Many Endings. Huh?
Apparently there's too many endings at the end. It fades out a couple times.
Are they high? Like, you have multiple characters, right? After this vast epic that we need closure on. We want to see what happens and how they're going to be leading their lives.
To answer your question, they're not high. They're communists.
Return of the King may be considered to be one of the greatest book-to-screen adaptations of all time, but even going in to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, but it isn't perfect. One of the few things that viewers consistently find annoying about the film... Point them out! Like, are these, what, activists? Are these those people online about is it the Tolkien Society that end up writing all the ways that Sauron is gay or something like that? Are these the type of people you're interviewing that find the ending annoying? They says, which drags on and on despite numerous scenes that could have been terrific closing moments. Get stuffed.
And you stupid asshole.
Like, no. The closure that we got to see in multiple characters was essential.
Yeah.
Friggin' hell, this is dumb.
It ended perfectly.
All right, number 14. There are some unpopular changes from the books. Now, hang on. Why would that cause it to age poorly?
I got a feeling that these are all just like the things they put in so they can then say later on, there's no black people. There's no...
No wonder. One of the most consistent complaints about Lord of the Rings movies is that certain characters from the books were cut out entirely. Characters like Tom Bombadil are left out of the movies, whereas others like Glorfindel have their roles significantly decreased. Now, this is the thing, right? I have always said, and I've said multiple times, so this is completely consistent, that in adaptation, you by necessity need to change things, especially if you don't have as much time, okay? The issue is how it's done. The execution is crucial. And so... I'm perfectly fine with some things needing to be cut by necessity. But if the people adapting this say that, right, we have to cut things because we don't have as much time, right? And they do cut things, and then they inject new crap that they made up, I friggin' lose my mind. Exactly what they did with Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time, the adaptation, right? Rafe Judkins was saying, we've got to cut things because of time. And then he has dedicated episodes to characters that he made up, right? Going on their own friggin' story, and they cut such important plot story elements from the book for this nonsense. It was just self-indulgent crap where he thought he was so high on his own story that he's so great that he could do a better job than the source material and wanted to inject his own stories into it. All right? That's the issue, okay? But Peter Jackson, he was like cutting things in necessity, trying to make, and it was so clear the sincerity. With the interviews where he says, we weren't interested in injecting our own thoughts and themes and messages, our own politics, right? We want to adapt the messages of Tolkien, of the book, right? And that interview was just getting sent around everywhere with Rings of Power coming out, because you'd see his interview and then you'd see like the quotes of the showrunners or whatever, producers on the thing saying, we need to change things for a modern audience, right? Like night and day approach. Okay, and so I, like, from the mainstream reaction, I barely saw anyone. I know there were people complaining, but for the mainstream reaction, no one complained.
And also, some of the parts that Glorfindel was replaced in, he was replaced with Arwen. Like, for example, getting Frodo to Rivendell.
Yeah, yeah.
Arwen.
And these are, and gave the character more presence to justify her role later on.
Yeah.
And so that seems like a change that aged quite well.
Yeah, an improvement, I'd say.
Yeah. All right, so number 13. Important scenes are missing in the theatrical cuts, but we have the extended cuts. Hang on. The extended cuts makes it age better because we've got those additional scenes.
Yeah. These people are stupid.
Wait, just skip it. That one is nonsense. The Hobbit changes aspects of the original trilogy.
Like what?
Well, let's see what they say. As is the case with many prequels, The Hobbits have a negative impact on the Lord of the Rings trilogy itself. Taking place decades before the events of Fellowship of the Rings, the three Hobbit movies attempt to set up events of the original trilogy, but ultimately make the franchise's timeline more confusing. Examples, ready? Examples. The Hobbit trilogy adds storylines, including one where Gandalf, Saruman, and Elrond and Galadriel face off against a mysterious necromancer who turns out to be Sauron himself. While they emerge victorious, they are still aware that Sauron remains a threat. Saruman's sabotage excluded. This storyline makes some of the Lord of the Rings' wisest characters seem foolish, so they only give one example by the look of this. A single example. They say there are multiple things and they can only give one example, and this one I think is debatable. One, if you don't like the Hobbit movies, you don't watch them, and the Lord of the Rings films, just as good as ever.
This doesn't make the Lord of the Rings worse, it makes the Hobbit worse.
Yes, yeah, right? That would be a negative thing on the Hobbit. And in terms of, did they really know Saruman was back? Because they thought they kind of sent him back into the shadow, basically, right? They thought they got a win against a potential returning, okay? So, yeah, I'm not sure about that one. All right, Lord of the Rings will inevitably be rebooted.
That's like saying the world will eventually end. We know, and we're waiting for it.
That doesn't make the original films worse.
It makes...
If anything, Rings of Power has made the films look way better.
Yeah.
Way better. Right? In an age of constant remakes and reboots, it's unfortunately inevitable that almost every popular franchise will be reborn in the next few years. Harry Potter series has already been confirmed for a Max reboot. The Twilight's being rebooted. That'll be interesting.
Oh, great.
The thing is, though, I like Twilight. I don't care. I know it's bad. Shut up. Okay?
You would put it in a time capsule?
This is the thing. Twilight actually has some themes that I really like about masculine kind of ideal of protecting and providing for the one that you love and stuff. It has a very strong pro-life message in it, by the way.
Yeah.
And there are other themes that I just think are done really well. The writing... There's big issues. I'm not saying it's not, right?
Do you agree with a 109-year-old vampire man dating a 17-year-old?
I don't know.
I think that's not the best.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. Like, I get there's issues with it. Still like it, I don't care, right? But the thing is, though, because there are some pretty bad aspects, it's like a remake might be able to improve it. But when you're trying to remake something as near flawless as Lord of the Rings, you're set up for fail.
Yeah.
You're not going to win. It's not going to happen. And so as such, it's only a matter of time before Lord of the Rings itself will reboot as well. You know, the only reason why, like, someone else will get the rights and they want to get money off the franchise, and that's why they'll reboot it.
Yeah.
But they will have a hard upwards battle to try and, make that stand out compared to the original trilogy.
Embracer Group just bought the video game rights for the Lord of the Rings films. So we'll see what they do with that.
Yeah. And so they say, let me try and get rid of while reboots occasionally improve on the original, occasionally, it is very rare that they are as well regarded as well. I was like, not these days. Reboots have usually just been dog crap.
Is there a single time where it's been better? A single time a reboot has made it better?
I'm sure there's an example.
I don't think there is.
Oh, I would need to think about it, though. Yeah, I'd need to think about it.
Maybe Superman, but yeah.
Man, the Christopher Reeves ones are good. Still to this day, the best Clark Kent. In actual fact, me and the family starting to rewatch Lois and Clark, the series.
Haven't seen it.
Man, I love it. It's campy, but there's one thing that they different adaptations usually do something really well, as opposed to others. And the Lois and Clark series, they just nailed the innocent farm boy origin of Clark Kent really well. And Lois Lane. Lois Lane is just such a stellar character in it, a well fleshed out character. The balance between Clark and Lois is just like the best. And look, Dean Cain, I think, did a great job in the role, but you just can't beat Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent.
Yeah, the way he would like change his posture.
Exactly. Like, I actually believe people would not be able to recognize, you know, Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent from his Superman persona. Like, what?
We certainly couldn't recognize him today.
Shame, shut up.
I'm sorry. I felt bad.
Yeah, you should. You're a terrible person.
Yeah.
All right. But that's one of the, like, no one else has nailed it as well. And even in Lois and Clark, it's too, like, I just loved how Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent was just so nerdy. Oh, well, Lois, if we go, like
yeah.
It was perfect. Thing is, though, I kind of get why they might have changed it with Lois and Clark, because so much of the story is between Clark's relationship with Lois. And so the characterization dynamic worked really well. And I think it would have been damaged if Clark was always trying to sabotage himself by being nerdy and so different from Superman, where it's not like that. And so the relationship dynamic in Lois and Clark is what makes that show shine. And so anyway, reboots are an interesting discussion, okay? So, but yeah, like, good luck. I don't think that's going to I think it'll just make the originals look better. Number 10, Elijah Wood's acting in some scenes is awkward. Did they see some of the acting in Rings of Power?
It's not awkward.
Rings of Power. Conflicted. Who is this mortal? Has any idea?
Or when she has a full-on facial spasm when Elrond tells her off.
Yeah, that's the conflicted line. The horse riding.
What was the horse riding again?
She's on the horse and she's got the really weird face.
Whatever.
I mean, some of the acting in Rings of Power is gosh awful.
Yeah.
Wow. And like, all they can say is that I'm not sure. Mention the scenes, right? I mean, Lord of the Rings started cast, sparkling performances. However, in rewatching, one notices Elijah acting with Frodo Baggins falters more than once. I haven't noticed really much. Like, no, not for me. I mean, there were some awkward moments in Elijah Wood's performance as the beloved Hobbit seems to forced to, and even comical, like when Frodo collapses after Gandalf sacrifices Battle of Balton. What? No!
That's Peregrine Took who collapses. He is walking on with a single tear that comes out of his eye. It's the most iconic scene ever. He doesn't collapse at all.
His acting, so they're trying to say that, I can't remember, like when Frodo collapsed after Gandalf sacrificed himself in the battle with the Balrog.
He didn't. He walked on. Remember? He's like, get them up.
I think so.
And then
no, it was certainly Aragorn telling him to get up and say, give them a moment for pity's sake.
Yeah. And then he's like, Frodo, and he notices that Frodo's continued to walk.
Maybe, I think. Yeah, mate.
I've seen the movies 50 times. I know for a fact.
The only things that's standing out, but it makes sense for the scene, is like when he got like stabbed by Shelob and has got the whole kind of thing, but that makes sense, you know.
Realistically, I'd probably be like that too.
And the whole, when he's getting on the boat and is like, Sam, is like, that might be the only moment you could.
But to be fair, I mean, like, no, they don't get to find a single thing wrong with it. Screw them. They got it completely. He doesn't collapse. That's Peregrine who collapses because he blames himself.
Yeah, it doesn't age badly for me, especially when you look at the acting. Like, look at She-Hulk and other crap in the modern day, or with the. Wow. Certain visual effects look clunky, number 9, and they have, when Frodo is like, you know, did they see the visual effects in Thor Love and Thunder?
No.
You know, that floating head, like message, like, no. In comparison, these visual effects are fine.
Look, it looks a little bit not silly, but it does look a little bit, you know, but who cares? Everything about The Lord of the Rings is fantastic.
This is the thing, like, when a story is so good, visual effects become, like the bad ones, unnoticeable. Like, Stargate SG-1 has some really dodgy visual effects, but I don't notice them because the story is so damn good. And you just get, and so that's what, and by the way, some of the other visual effects, like the Balrog, friggin' holds up, man. Amazing. Holy crap.
And also, bloody George Lucas uses every possible screen wipe that he can. And he doesn't get called into this, does he?
Yeah, this one is just overly pedantic to try and make the Lord of the Rings trilogy look worse than what it is. And it feels like deflection and cope to try and run defense for Rings of Power. That's what this feels like. Okay? Random characters show up momentarily. No, that was that made sense. So, the Silmarillion, some of Tolkien's other writings, which comply with history, cover a lot of the world's history. Some characters from these writings, notably the elf Glorfindel, make minor appearances in Lord of the Rings, but barely influence the plot before leaving. Tolkien fans love these cameos, but many modern readers are frustrated by them. They're not mentioning any times when they show up. Like, I'm thinking, are they going to mention in Helm's Deep when the elves come to help him out? Or when Elrond comes to Aragorn and gives him the sword? It's like, that's all set up.
Yeah.
There's not an issue with any of that. But they're not giving specifics for that one. And they just talk about it ages poorly because they have random cameos from characters from the Silmarillion. That doesn't make it age poorly. What?
Call me crazy. I think they're finding any reason they can to say anything they can.
It seems like that. Again, they just want to slag on Lord of the Rings to make Rings of Power look better. That's my impression. Heroes seem invincible.
Boromir died.
Frodo, always gets killed.
Gandalf died, but he came back because he's literally an angel.
And this is a heroic epic. They are meant to be friggin' tough as hell, right? Like, Legolas, he is a how many 1,000-year-old elf?
2,500?
Superhuman, basically, right? And Aragorn gets thrown off a cliff and almost dies. Gimli gets pinned by a thing and almost dies, right? There are multiple times...
Smeagol dies.
Yeah, multiple times when these characters get threatened with near imminent death, and sometimes even shows that, and they also face defeat. Okay, Aragorn, that's a defeat. Aragorn gets defeated in that battle, and luckily just survives, but that is still a defeat, right? But they're all invincible, and then it's like apart from Boromir, and Boromir cops it, right?
And how many of Treebeard's mates died? Think about that.
Now, what about the decapitated heads the orcs throw over there?
That's horrific.
It's like...
That's some Genghis Khan right there.
Some main characters lack agency.
Two hobbits who are perpetually high lack agency.
Even though they were the ones that caused Treebeard to go.
Yep.
Like, it was them and their agency that caused that. But I wonder if they're going to be mentioning the female characters.
And
contemporary readers, like the principal characters, lack agency story. A good example might be Twilight, Bella Swan, who many readers dislike due to a passive role in the narrative. Like, they don't actually understand. Bella is doing many active, proactive things that are like in causing things to go. And there's also the female power fantasy thing of two hunky guys fighting for her affection stuff. It's the reason why Twilight was insanely popular with a female audience.
Yeah.
Okay, there's female power fantasy and fantasy like involved in that heavily.
Notice how female fantasy, lol. Sounds like my fantasy. No, female power fantasy is like two dudes fighting over them, but male power fantasy is like, we're going to struggle and like get close to death. And
I mean, Bella, I know a bit a thing or two about Twilight, right? Bella literally nearly sacrifices her life at multiple times. She stops Edward from killing himself and everything like that. Like, to say that she has no agency at all is just someone who does not know the material. Flat. I'm not saying that there aren't moments where she does not have as much power and is a bit helpless and needs to be saved. Yeah, because she's a normal girl and, needs to be protected at times. But a lot of the whole series is resting on her choice and agency. It was her choice against many people trying to tell otherwise to keep the baby when she falls pregnant, right? And like her agency is driving so much of the plot forward in Twilight. And so these people just don't know crap.
But also like they just don't even know the source material. Like so Pippin saved Faramir. And he literally showed agency when he was like, no, Gandalf, I'm going to swear my fealty to old mates, the dude's dad, to repay the thing. And then, what's his name? Mary was like, please, Theoden King, let me fight in the biggest bloody epic battle of all time.
And look, they say in the Two Towers, Merry and Pippin are largely passive characters. They begun to, shut up. This is nonsense.
Pippin literally tricked Treebeard. He knew that...
Yes, it was... Gosh. The story takes a while to get started. Shut up. That beautiful build-up is brilliant. The introduction of Hobbiton just is immersive.
And the story takes a while to get started. In the first 20 minutes, they literally explain like 3,000 years worth of history to you.
Like, I mean, 20 minutes? I mean, is that just that's the intro? Almost?
That's literally the intro.
I was like, but it takes a while to get started on.
And we're straight into Hobbiton.
Oh, and I loved Hobbit.
Everyone loves Hobbiton. It's Hobbiton.
The Lord of the Rings films
Took you that long.
lack diversity. There's the mask off. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Yep. It was all the build up to what they really think. There we go. And shut up. Get stuffed. I can't stand this. It's like Lord of the Rings, explicitly by the author, fable for the British people, right? Which has a racial ethnicity attached to it, right? It is a British mythology, this, okay? And it lacks diversity. Gee, are you criticizing the African mythology for lacking diversity? You're criticizing Asian mythology and stories for lacking diversity? You friggin' hypocrites. Piss off. Can't stand this. If anything, this push for diversity, right, where it doesn't belong, like making Anne Boleyn black and everything like that, which is just bastardizing history and massive disrespect for cultures, right? That is the fact that the Peter Jackson trilogy was just about adapting the source material, okay, makes it age better, all right? And the whole Rings of Power nonsense with, you know, now that there's black characters in it, people of color can finally watch and appreciate and identify with this property, which is saying that if you don't have people that look like you in something, you can't identify with people on a human level, which is just horribly racist, right? This is just absolute crap.
Well, look, I'm just surprised it took them all the way to 4. All the other reasons were complete BS, but you know, at least they got to number 4.
4 before, you know,
What's the
masking
next
off.
one?
Gosh.
Not enough women?
The final scenes of The Return of the King needed more words.
But
You just said that there was too many final scenes.
There is one hilarious thing.
Hang on, we're going up to the top. They said too many endings, and now
The ending's not long enough.
Ending's not long enough. Needed more words.
It needed one more word, technically, right?
What?
He needed to say Legolas. That's it. He just needed to say Legolas. That's the additional word.
Frodo's reunion with the Fellowship is ultimately underwhelming. The joy that they have when they meet each other. You feel that, man.
Yeah.
In fact, I think words would have robbed it from the emotional impact of them just...
Well, they do speak. That's why I'm saying they needed to add Legolas, because when the Fellowship come in, he says everybody's name as they come in, except for Legolas. When Legolas comes in, he's just like, that guy. Yeah.
Look, he's getting overwhelmed and all the other... I didn't never notice that as an issue at all.
Yeah.
The slow motion lasted for too... Shut up. Saying lasted for too long, which made a bizarre watch. No, it didn't. That's... Yep, there's the other mask off. Some races have been typecast. Who did the typecasting? Who, out of anyone, ever associated orcs with any minority? The extreme woke left. It's them. Those are the races that did it. No one ever thought like, gee, orcs are a representation of black people. Get stuffed. Oh, this nonsense. And that, like, this is the similar Cope stuff. This whole article, right, is a bait and switch to try and draw people in for, like, a logical discussion of, you know, Lord of the Rings aging badly with their activist talking points that because again, these activists, they want media to change, to be more diverse, to more DEI, to be more woke, right? And so they're drawing people in with their real feelings about it. And their biggest, they actually don't care about anything they said. What they actually care about, the things they truly take issue with, is the diversity and the bullcrap typecasting where they're the ones who think the orcs represent black people, which is it's such a horribly racist view. Oh, wow. The Lord of the Rings, there are certain races depicted as universally evil, which is so maybe there's like, they're typecast as evil, that's the issue. But there's the also woke left talking point that the orcs represent black people that they've pushed, right? But it's wrong that all the orcs are evil. Get stuffed. It's like it's a fantasy race. They were created to be the foot soldiers of an evil entity. That's the whole point. And it has no reflection on the real world, like in terms of any one-to-one comparison. This is a fictional story about good and evil, all right? For instance, they only appear as evil antagonists, which homogenizes an entire species as being in a rather boring manner. No. Like, sometimes having an evil race is a literary shorthand to have an easy villain for the good guys to oppose, okay? And then you can focus on the story of the good guys and stuff like that, and that is perfectly fine, okay? Yeah. Not every villain needs to be complex, have a strong, big backstory. Sometimes all you need is mindless bugs for super Earth to fight.
And also, like, if you think about, like, history, like look at the Romans and the Celtics, the Celtic tribes and the Romans. They're separated, but wouldn't one see the other as evil?
I mean, it's a trend historically to try and vilify the opposing side in any way.
Exactly. So,
but that's not a reflection on what law they're, because these are actually evil races.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to say that these represent any type of race in the real world.
Oh, the lefties are.
Tolkien said, nothing is evil in the beginning, which is a good sentiment. However, when Lord of the Rings portrays every character, they became evil. They became corrupted. They're completely missing the context here. It indulges in a binary way of thinking, which lacks nuance. This is nonsense. Number one, Tolkien's world features very few women. There we go. They hit it all. That, you know, you said, I wonder when women will come in, and that's their number one complaint about it. It doesn't matter. Rom-coms have mostly women main characters. Pride and Prejudice focus around women. Good. That's a good thing. The fact that there's not a lot of women, that's like the hero saving the day of men. Good. Okay. The fact that there might be a story with more predominantly women doesn't matter. Okay. What matters is it the story good or not? Okay. And the fact that sometimes women are not as represented is a non-issue. It's the story. Okay. And they legitimately think it would have been better, a superior film, if Arwen or Eowyn had a larger role. And it's like, that doesn't inherently make it better. It's about execution, but also that's subverting the source material as well. Okay? Listen, Lord of the Rings is largely a story about male characters. Good. What's wrong? What do you have against men? Would you complain about a story that's largely about... Do you complain about Pride and Prejudice being a story largely about the female characters? Okay? Where's your equality? If it's an issue that a story has predominantly one sex presented, why aren't you complaining about it when the opposite happens? Because you're not about equality, you're about power and revenge. It's only an issue when your side you feel gets oppressed, but when your side is oppressing, perfectly fine, okay?
For Pride and Prejudice, they have race. They're like, oh, there's not enough black people.
Do they? Oh, they complain against it, but they don't complain against the female representation, right?
No trans representation.
Female characters in Tolkien's world are largely sidelined or defined by their relationship with the men. So, a lot of male characters in female rom-coms are defined by the relationship with the women, but they're happy about that. No complaints about that, because this is one-sided, double-standard hypocrisy, okay? This is absolute bullcrap, what they're trying to peddle here, okay? And, like, making a female-focused story more about the male characters would make it worse, okay? And this story is about, men saving the day with women helping him out. And women playing crucial roles, by the way, as well. I mean, Eowyn does friggin' kill the Witch King.
Yeah, okay. Saying, I'm no man.
I am no man, doing it, which is a very strong woman-empowering thing, okay, right? Not good enough, though.
No.
Not enough representation.
They need she has help or something like that.
She is not alone. Yeah. Is that the one?
That was the one that was in the Infinity War. Then there was the other one where they purposely got all the girls together somehow.
Yeah, girls really do get it done. That one's from the boys.
Yeah.
Similar to ensuring there is a good representation of across races, it's also important for media to portray... No, it is. Shut up. It's just important about the story. I don't need representation in Asian cinema or African cinema. And this is explicitly a British tale. Okay? Tolkien includes great moments for his female characters, but notably Eowyn saying the Witch King, it's not enough for them, though. Okay? Okay, yeah, that's it. That's everything. And this was all just a smokescreen to push their activist woke messaging, as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's...
Awesome. And again, this is all Kobo deflection because Rings of Power is better in their mind, not because it's horribly written, but it's better because it has more women, more diverse races, representation, That's the quality that they believe in.
All these people have is infiltration and mutation. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Look, woke media, right? This article from CBR, they continue to cope and seethe and deflect, and they won't change the fact that Rings of Power died, like rejected wholesale, and Lord of the Rings will be celebrated forever as a timeless classic, and nothing what they say or do can change that.
Never.
Stay on watch.